You know, we tend to think of nations as the ultimate authority, right? The final word on who has power inside their own borders. But what if I told you that in the shadows, new sovereigns are rising? Empires built on cash, weapons, and pure fear. And they're powerful enough to challenge the state itself. Today, we're diving deep into that dark reality.
Just let that sink in for a second. This isn't a wild idea from a movie script. It's a question based on something that actually happened in our lifetime. So, how in the world did we get to this point?
To really get it, we need to look at the rise of what you might call a shadow state. This is the point where criminal gangs stop being just a problem for the police to handle and start becoming a real competitor for who's actually in charge.
Yeah, we're not talking about street gangs anymore. These are sophisticated, global corporations. Just, corporations of crime. They've got logistics, they've got command structures, they've got financial departments that work with terrifying efficiency. And when their power grows and no one stops them, they start acting like a government, creating this kind of parallel authority. And when all that power is paid for by the drug trade, well, it leads to something even more dangerous.
So how does this even happen? How does a criminal group get strong enough to stare down an entire country? Well, it's not overnight. It's built piece by piece on a foundation of some seriously powerful interconnected pillars. And this is the key concept, the potential endgame, the narco state. It's not just about a country having a drug problem. It's about a country where the drug trade has woven itself so deeply into the system that it starts to poison everything, from the local cops on the street all the way up to the highest courts in the land.
And here they are, the four pillars holding up this shadow state. But what's absolutely crucial to understand is how they feed each other in this terrifying loop. The insane amount of money buys military-grade weapons. Those weapons create widespread public fear, so no one dares to speak out. That fear makes it easy for state corruption to run wild, because officials are either paid off or scared for their lives. And of course, that corruption protects the flow of money, making the whole thing stronger every single day.
So, once you have these pillars in place, you can get to the ultimate showdown, a direct, all-out war against the state. And there is no more famous or infamous example of this than Pablo Escobar's bloody war against his own country.
Back in the 80s, when the Colombian government tried to extradite him to the US, Pablo Escobar didn't just fight back, he declared total war. We're talking car bombs, assassinations, the works. His power grew so absolute that he ended up negotiating the terms of his own surrender to a luxury prison that he himself designed and basically controlled. Just think about that for a second. He wasn't just defying the state, he was dictating terms to it. And this is the brutal, heartbreaking cost of that war. More than 4,000 people. That number is the price Colombia paid when one man's criminal empire got powerful enough to wage a horrifying war on its own people and its own government.
But here's the thing. Escobar's brute force approach was a horrifying spectacle, sure, but in the end, he lost. And the criminal empires that came after him, they learned from his failure. They realized that chaotic terror could actually unite a country against them. So the new strategy was different. It was less about public terror and more about precise military-style power. They evolved from being a gang at war with the state to a paramilitary force that could actually beat the state on the battlefield.
And that evolution leads us to one of the most unbelievable events in recent history, a moment where a national government didn't just bend, it completely broke. This is the story of a battle for a city that ended in a government's public surrender.
Okay, so it all kicks off with this massive operation. Mexican special forces successfully capture Ovidio Guzman, a top leader in the Sinaloa Cartel, and, yes, the son of the infamous El Chapo. This should have been a huge win.
But that victory lasted maybe a few minutes. In a shocking, unbelievably coordinated assault, the Sinaloa Cartel hit back. And not like a gang, like a disciplined army. They unleashed hundreds of their fighters armed with .50 caliber machine guns and armor-piercing weapons, and they turned the entire city of Culiacán into a war zone.
With the city completely besieged and their own forces totally outgunned, the government got a message from the cartel. It wasn't a negotiation, it was an ultimatum. Let Guzman go or they would start executing soldiers, their families, and slaughter civilians in the streets. The government was completely trapped.
And then, the unthinkable happened. The president of Mexico gave the order, let him go. Release Ovidio Guzman. The cartel won. They had literally forced a sovereign nation to surrender on its own soil. The official line was that it was to save innocent lives. But the message it sent to the entire world was absolutely terrifying. In that city, on that day, the state was not the one with the ultimate power.
That event, which people now call the Culiacanazo, it was way more than just a firefight. It was a live public demonstration of a massive power shift, and it raises a question that gets to the very core of what a country even is.
I mean, when a government backs down and a criminal army wins, who's really in control? When the ability to unleash overwhelming violence becomes the real currency of power, the lines of authority don't just get blurry, they get completely erased. And it creates this frightening new reality where the state might still exist on paper, but the real sovereign is the shadow that rules through fear.